Hello, sweet internet children. This is Andrew from Dissecting Life, talking to the YouTubes and whoever else is out there. Today I'm here with the always lovely, always insane Paul Devita.
Well, I try to be as cordial as possible with you, Andrew.
Try, but it's
Yes,
all
Andy.
it's all awesome because you're still the man.
Ah.
We get the opportunity to pick this crazy guy's brain today,
No.
which is awesome. But before we do, I want you to hit that subscribe button and check out our Facebook page in the description. And always be sure to check out the description because there's always a bunch of good stuff in there regards to the video and whatever else. And just check out the description.
Mm-hmm.
And be sure to share this video and like us on Facebook and subscribe, like I said. So that being said, let's get into it. All right, everyone. So today we're going to be talking about authority and going to be getting into religion and
Pretty legit stuff.
yeah, pretty deep stuff. Because I know Paul here is a
Roman
really
Catholic.
really religious guy. I don't have a problem with that.
Oh, well.
But I figured he'd be perfect for this
Well.
cast.
So,
I'm curious, why are you so religious? Is it just the way we brought up, going to Catholic high school and stuff like that?
well, I mean, everybody can kind of say like, oh, well, you're Roman Catholic because you were raised it and you're used to everything, and you don't explore everything. But yeah, I mean, in high school I had taken a world religions class, and as I grew up a little bit or got older, it hasn't been that long, but I got a little bit more into some Eastern religions and stuff. I mean, I'm not practicing them, obviously, but I remember we had to read this book, Siddhartha, by Hermann Hesse.
That was a great book.
Oh, my
that was
gosh.
a phenomenal book.
It was,
I had to read that, too.
It was a very good book, and I was
It's one
kind
of my favorites.
I guess, inspired by that a bit. And I remember we had to learn about Islam, stuff like that. So, like, different religions. I mean, Islam isn't that far from Christianity.
That was a world religions class in the Catholic high school, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we learned, I mean, I always know about, like, because you have the, like, Judeo-Christian kind of, like, put together, and Islam's kind of, like, put off, even though it's an Abrahamic religion, which is whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So I'm religious, probably more than my parents are, which is weird. I mean, they sent me to Catholic school for about 12 years. I go to a Dominican-run college, Colwell College, which is now a university, which means they're going to charge you more money, but it doesn't really matter.
That's how they scam you.
It's a good college.
Yeah.
Not as good as Willie P, but
It's all right. It's all good.
It's but yeah, I mean, I'm religious because I guess I choose to be.
That's good. I mean, religion does help. I mean, with the self and coping with things. But I really wanted to talk about authority in regards to that. And it's authority in general, because you have to have an idea of authority before you get into talking about religion as an authority. And it's a very Krishnamurtian ideal, if you're familiar with him, or if anybody's familiar with him. He's really interesting, and I really grew more and more infatuated with the way he talked and the topics he talked about, specifically authority. I thought it was really interesting. He had basically been talking about what restricts clarity in life, in somebody's life. What would restrict their clarity or lucidity in seeing life clearly, in other words. So one of the things that would do that is authority. And it's because one of the essential ingredients to clarity, I think you would agree, is freedom.
Yeah, I mean,
Freedom from authority, because with authority becomes clouded vision.
Sure, I mean,
I can give you an example.
I mean, a lot of things you can kind of think as clouding your judgment and stuff like that. I remember in a lot of Buddhist meditations, and I know you're very much into meditation, Andrew.
Yeah.
So,
And then that plays a role in authority as well.
Yeah, they are trying to kind of free themselves from suffering and pain and stuff like that. So that could also be, besides religion, and usually Buddhists aren't as organized as maybe Western religion. So I could see where you're coming from with the authority, and it is clouding your judgment in a way, and you're always looking to this higher power to kind of
Let me give you a little
gain.
abstract example.
Mm-hmm.
If a mother was telling her child what to do from dawn till dusk, and that was to be done every day. The question is, will that child see life lucidly? The answer is no, because he relies on the mother to tell him what to do. So he has no freedom. His perception doesn't rely on that of the self. That's really important in authority and viewing life. The perception of yourself must rely on that of the self. If there's no mental freedom, for example, in that example, authority is providing clouded vision, because he is only doing that thing day in and day out, and he cannot have these self realizations. So in that case, it clouds authority. It clouds vision.
Mm-hmm.
So he would never be able to see life lucidly or clearly or have any realizations, because his perception doesn't rely on that of the self. And I think one of the antidotes to that is meditation, because that's what it's about. It's about your perception relying on that of the self. And it's really interesting. I mean, the whole goal of meditation is to observe yourself so passionately and so purely that you lose the sentience of the physical world, and you are trapped inside your mind, so to speak, in a thoughtless state. So you're truly just yourself in that instance, and there is no authority. There's zero over you at all. So I would say that's also an antidote to influence, because I mean, influence can be perceived as authority.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could see the example of the mother telling the child what to do, but I remember taking a child psychology class, and some of the topics we were going over was having some sort of parental interaction and other things like that, and your peer interaction does affect you. So are you trying to advocate for more or less the parent not really telling the child what to do and allowing them to be free? Because that actually could work. A child not being told what to do.
I think in a lot of instances,
yeah,
parents who are very, I guess, overprotective or over-influential of their child,
that's when the
wanting them to do what they want,
mm-hmm.
the child tends to go off on its own path and say, "Screw you guys, I'm going to do what I want."
Be rebellious.
Yeah. So in other words, they aren't helping that child be what they wanted to be in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I remember us having a conversation one time where you told me that, and this is, I mean, today it seems we're talking a lot about Buddhism, but it does discuss this, where, the middle path, and you can take that with, freedom, meditation, anything you do in life, but you kind of have to take the bit, I mean, with parenting too, I mean, you kind of, and any authority, you can't, in government, like we're going to get into that topic today, you have to, you can't like crazy tax your people, but you can't like not tax them, because you do need some sort of income and money and other thing like that. And
I think then that gets into utopia and dystopia and economy, whether we need economy or not. A government's definitely an authority that we need to consider as well. I mean, there are some authorities that we need, and I'm not saying that government is something that we need. For example, an authority that might be helpful is if you're lost in like wherever, West Caldwell.
Yeah.
West Caldwell's easy to get lost.
Yeah.
So you're lost there, and you don't know how to get back, and you don't have a GPS. You ask somebody, hey, how do I get back to Clifton? Whatever.
46.
Yeah, how do I get to Route 46? And they'll tell you how to get there. So, I mean, there's that authority of knowledge I think we should trust in something like that. Okay. But I mean, there's this polarity. There's this separation between clarity, what prevents clarity, and then authority. Authority, and then that polar opposite being the precipice of clarity. These two polarities, they seem to be fighting each other constantly. My point is, though, yeah, there are some authorities that we need to definitely follow
in a way. I mean, I could see where I know a couple years ago that in recent times I've seen where organized religion isn't as popular, and it's kind of
that seems to be the trend as
going
of late.
Down, I guess, because I remember there was that gentleman that had made that video, like, why you need Jesus, and like how Jesus doesn't like religion. How do you know Jesus didn't like religion? First of all, he was a Jew in the first century, and
I don't know.
So
I mean, that's true. He was a Jew.
So he did follow some sort of authority, and I mean, this is just coming from my Christian view that I remember they had questioned Jesus about whether we should pay taxes, and that obviously brings in government and other things like that, and should we pay taxes, since you're saying we shouldn't really follow the Pharisees? And Jesus said, yeah, you should absolutely pay taxes, because whose face is on here? Caesar's face. And do unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and do unto God what is God.
Yeah, but I don't think that we should just do that just because Jesus said so.
No,
do you know what I mean? And that's just coming from your Christian view, so I understand that that's what you would say. But I mean, when people get asked a question, I think they just look for an answer. They jump to an answer, kind of like that, which is why a lot of people might join a religion, but nobody stops to really empirically slow down and say, okay, let's observe this question. I mean, the last episode, Unconditional Love, we really took the words unconditional love and we looked at these words. What do they mean? If we can perceive what they mean, then they probably exist in this universe. I mean, at least somewhere, or they can, or it is possible in this universe. Because why not? But I mean, back to authority and religion. What I wanted to say about authority and religion as an authority, is that basically religions, are saying, okay, give us your lives, and we'll make you good people, and you'll get into heaven. Just join our church, and we'll tell you what to do. Essentially,
in a way, I suppose.
I mean, I'm stripping away all of the just down to the bare bones. Of
what it's
kind of really implying.
I guess.
Join our religion, come with us, and we'll get you to heaven. And people do it, but they're only subject to that one authority, in the same way that the child is only subject to the mother. If they shed that religion, then their perception is going to rely on that of the self, and they can have their own realizations. Because when somebody tells you methodology, how to do something, the how of methodology, when somebody tells you what to do, that is authority, and you'll never really be able to do what they're telling you through their methodology, because that methodology is what worked for them. It doesn't necessarily work for everybody. For example, a child in a classroom learning 2 + 2 = 4, that child will know that 2 + 2 = 4 through that teacher teaching him, but only through his own realization will he realize that holding up 2 fingers, this is the amount 2. This is the amount. He has to really understand that this amount is 2. And when I take another amount of 2 and I put them together, that is only when I get 4. I mean, I can say 2 + 2 = 4 all day, and he might not have any idea what I'm talking about, because he's subject to the methodology and the authority of that teacher. But only when he goes home and looks at his homework and says, okay, this amount 2, this amount 2, this equals 4. He has to see these amounts and understand what they are. That's the only time that he's really going to understand what 2 + 2 equals, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that, because I had actually seen a quote the other day. I forgot it was a famous character, I guess. I don't know, author or celebrity, I don't know, but it had said something like teach me, show me something and I'll forget it, and then teach me something and I'll remember it for like a day, but interact with me and I'll remember for a life. It's kind of like,
methodologies,
give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. So I mean, in a way, I know you're saying that sometimes authority can affect our clarity and affect our judgment, and I remember, again, in psychology, there was these things. I'm pretty sure I'm citing this right. The schemas. There's certain like pools of knowledge, I guess, in our mind that we can draw from in our consciousness and our past experiences, and that's really what you're saying is what we can really learn from our experiences. You can watch as many cooking shows as you watch. Does not mean you can make chicken franchise. Does not mean you can be Guy Fieri.
You have to figure out how you would make it.
Yeah, I mean,
through yourself. That's what we're gonna. I mean, like you said, like what you're saying right now, it all
Yeah.
makes sense. Like you can teach a man to fish, and he'll fish for a lifetime. But when he becomes a good fisherman, that's only through his practice and through his own methodology of figuring out how he would become a good fisherman.
So, all right.
Example, like the teacher taught the
Yeah.
kid 2 + 2 = 4. I can tell the kid that all day, but only when he goes home and looks at it and realizes, holy Jesus, 2 and 2 really equal this amount, which we call 4. That's insane. And when the kid realizes that, that's when his mind blows up.
Now, all right. Getting back to authority, how does this play a whole role into this? Because what I'm figuring out.
What we're talking about?
Yeah, what I'm figuring out. You eventually you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to figure stuff out by yourself. You're saying.
Yeah.
But aren't you in the end sort of subject to some authority in a way? Would you agree?
Well,
or
I
would
mean,
you
if you're
argue?
subject to some authority, you're not going to see life in clarity, which we've
Mm-hmm.
already kind of figured out or proven in a way. Now, how does methodology play a role back into authority?
Yeah, I mean,
Because
how would you take a
methodology
role?
is the catalyst of authority. This is what authority does.
Mm-hmm.
So, by teaching us methodology, that's the methodology. I mean, that methodology won't work for everybody. Like Buddhist meditation, if you follow Thai meditation or Tibetan meditation, that's one methodology. You're only going to be subject to that one methodology. So there's a bunch of other stuff out there that you don't know. Don't follow one thing is what I'm saying. Be objective and empirically observe a bunch of other things until you figure out how to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you're subject to one authority, then you're going to have clouded vision. Because that authority might not work for everybody.
That's true. I mean, not different strokes for different folks,
And that's why belief systems
pair
might work a
patterns.
little bit better,
Mhm.
I think, than religions.
belief systems.
Belief systems.
How would you differentiate that from a religion? It's less organized.
Not
or-
organized. Yeah. I
It
mean,
would
I
have
don't
to be
want a
organized
pope.
once in a while.
I don't want a pope. I don't want any of that. I want to
Right.
believe what I want to believe. And
Well-
if somebody shares that belief, we can talk about that belief.
Yeah.
We might disagree in some views. For example, Catholics disagree all the time, let's say on abortion. You could be a born-again Christian, but you might be an advocate of abortion, and you might not be. And then you might argue about it. Not argue, but you might. But
Yeah,
you might have
could just
a
have a
intellectual
simple debate.
conversation with abortion.
Screaming match.
Yeah,
It's
but
not good.
that's what goes on, and that's really sad. I mean,
It's for I don't know,
the
how
passion
long
and the
have we been
anger
around?
is what I'm talking.
A couple 100,000 years,
yeah.
and human beings are still yelling and screaming at each other like it's we're cavemen.
I mean, we used to be worried about killing somebody in another tribe. Now we're pointing missiles at each other on the other side of the planet.
yeah. I mean,
When did that happen?
when did that become progress of
Yeah.
trying to take out other
I
people?
think I might have said that in the last podcast too. But I mean, it's so
Yeah,
true.
I don't know. I mean, now I can kind of see what you're saying. Authority kind of plays a big hurt in the world in a way because
Yeah.
I mean, there are whole different authorities, and there's different countries, and this is how we do these things here, and even on business trips, people getting people don't get business because they don't bow right or they don't. I don't know.
Yeah, in China, there's so many different.
like
rules you have to
gestures, and
follow.
if you it's like you do something, it's basically like you're telling them.
I
to
think
go
that's just
scratch.
yeah.
Like I didn't know that.
No, I didn't mean that.
Like you put your pinky up, and it's like they just leave, and what happened? You're like, you just told them to go fuck themselves. It's not good.
Yeah.
But anyway, it does cause wars. It does cause a lot of things like that. So I mean, it would be nice. I know Karl Marx advocated for this central, or communism, socialism is kind of this central power that controls everything, and we all know how that turned out. It wasn't so good, people starving, but that's where people become greedy. And I know you're not the biggest advocate of authority, but I think it does help in a way of kind of guiding people who are lost, because that's what human beings are. That's why we have sciences. That's why we have a religion. That's why we have all this stuff, because I'm not saying to stick to one ideology,
Yeah.
but
I mean, the human experience is absolutely astounding.
I think the human experience boiled down to maybe a sentence or something. It's like we're just so confused. Like, how did we get here? How did this happen? You know, there's all these theories about, you know, evolution, and that might not be right. There's theories about, you know, we were created in 7 days or 6 days, and that, you know, that could be right or wrong. Like, it's all about your experience and your, you know, I don't know, your perception on the topic. But I think, you know, why can't we just, you know, all get along?
Yeah.
You know, I just don't know.
But in what we're talking about, the thing that I really wanted to put forward. No, I mean everything you said was about authority.
Yeah.
But the thing that I want to get forward, and I would think that you would agree. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, you can tell me. But the perception relying on that of the self is a really important part in human development.
Relying on yourself?
The perception relying on that of the self. So in other words, like we were talking about, like shedding authority, to a degree, of course, for you, it would be to a degree shedding authority. But the perception relying on that of the self without outside influence, you can have enormous realizations.
Oh, absolutely, about yourself and about
course.
What you believe in certain things.
So
like
I mean,
that,
to a degree, every time, I mean, that makes sense. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking religion at all. I mean, there are many synchronicities to what I'm saying between religion, other religions, and especially perennial philosophy, because you're not restricted to one methodology like Catholicism. And if you guys aren't familiar with perennial philosophy, it's essentially it's that every world religion holds a truth to the world. Everyone presents a specific, not necessarily specific, but a profound clue to the human experience. In other words, but it contributes to this universal truth. I mean, I've even done a painting on it called "The Unanimity of the Perennial Vision," which is on screen right now, with the purple background and the different symbols, and that's because the level of sentience, the level of feeling that you get when you have these realizations about perennial philosophy, that's what I was trying to illustrate in this painting. I mean, the hand isn't choosing a religion, which is what it kind of looks like at times, but it's that the hand is what represents feeling, and it's that level of feeling that you get during this realization. But I want to read something, and I want you to think about it a little bit.
Sure.
This was something I wrote after I had read a little bit of the perennial philosophy, like first few chapters or so. That's a book by Aldous Huxley. If you're interested, I'll post a link in the description below if you guys want to read it or whatever. But this is what I wrote. It's called the isness in parentheses is-ness of the singular multiplicity. So, one of the greatest privileges in the human experience is the ability to cogitate so deeply on the singular multiplicity, the infinite boundless, the omnipotent eternity that is the divine, and still come away with a realization of its universality, but most importantly, its eternal incomprehensibility. In this sense, comprehension of the divine leaves the perceiver in the likeness of death, for only those who have graduated from the human experience are in union with the divine, ultimate cognition, and can truly perceive its incomprehensibility and perfection while being consubstantial with the infinitude that simply is in parentheses. So in other words, when you have this realization that something as complex as the divine is incomprehensible, you're left in the likeness of death, those who've died and passed on and graduated from the human experience, because they understand God.
So on the same level as the divine almost?
No, the people who have died are with him, in a sense, or with this higher consciousness. So they understand him much better than we do on earth, but they understand that he is incomprehensible, and they are closer with him. And when you have that incomprehensible realization, that is when you are left, in a sense, like the dead, because they understand God in as much as you can, and they realize that he's incomprehensible because he is his eternal infinitude, this omnipotent, infinite, boundless that he is.
Absolutely.
So in a sense, you're left like them,
like the dead.
Yeah. Because you have this really, because that's the most that's the highest level of understanding I think that we can have
Before death.
before death.
Before death, obviously.
So in a sense, you're left like the dead.
Yeah. Now you wrote this yourself.
Yeah.
You wrote this yourself. But it's very. I could have sworn it was from the book, but I've never read it, so it is. He's a very intelligent young man. So when he read it first time, when he explained it a little bit, I gave him a look like, "What did you just say?" So I am not as up onto this as he is, but
Well, thank you, Paul.
yes,
But you're still as equally as intelligent.
Oh well, yeah.
There's nobody on Earth who's smarter than anyone else.
Well, you can argue that a little bit, but to a point.
I don't like to say that, but
No, I'm not saying everybody's smarter than everybody. Anyway.
no, I know.
Would you equate this to almost nirvana or the breaking of the cycle of
What I said?
Yeah, I mean would you agree there might be a cycle in life of kind of, rebirth and death and stuff like that, or I mean, I don't know. I keep going back to religion, and this is a big topic.
Well,
I don't know why.
Me and my friend Ryan, who you're also friends with, who you know, who will be on the podcast a bunch of times too.
That's
And
gonna be a nice episode.
I mean, his brain is a phenomenal brain.
Ooh,
It's a big friggin' brain.
they should save it just right up there with Bobby Kennedy's brain. I don't know why.
But we've had extensive conversations on the soul, and I think this would kind of fall in. He believes. I think we should even have a podcast probably on this because it's really interesting. He believes that the soul is completely separate from
The body.
Yeah, but from the self more so.
Just a whole different self, you think?
Yeah, but he believes that so extensively that memories and everything are left behind.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you look into some of Plato's philosophy, there's absolutely some sort of Plato can argue for the afterlife and the existence of a soul, and he could do all that. But when it comes down to saying are we going to be individual souls? There's no way he's like, oh well,
No, there's a collective consciousness, of course. There's consciousness, like I said in the last ones, it's a trait that's common to us all. So therefore, individuals in a sense are abolished.
Yes, because if we're saying that. Would you agree that every soul has an equal value? Would you agree?
In a sense, yeah.
Human souls.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, I'm not talking about. We're not getting to animal souls or plants and stuff like that. So in a sense, if they have the equal value, they would know the same things, correct?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So if we know the same things and we have our equal value, what's the difference between each soul?
There's not.
But there's no uniqueness with each soul. So, I can see where Ryan's coming from with that sort of viewpoint.
He takes a more scientific view.
Scientific view?
Yeah, it's interesting, but we'll leave that for him.
Yeah,
because we're actually running out of time.
Ooh.
So, that being said, you are the man, Paul, and I'm always happy to have you here.
I don't know if we went over the whole topic today, but...
it's close enough, and I hope I got everybody out there to think. Be sure to like us on Facebook and check out the description at the bottom of the page for YouTube, and like us on Facebook, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. That's really important, guys. We appreciate all the listeners out there, and we will see you next time.